again. It's a Redskin.
Yo, 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 what up? How you been? How you doing? If you did not know already, welcome to the Courtside. I'm your host as always, Akash. Connor, hit him up.
What's up, people?
All right, so basically, the first half of the NBA season has concluded, but that leads us to consider who's going to claim that MVP trophy or who's going to claim that prestigious award. It leads us to question who has a really strong case for this mantle. Without further ado, let's get into it. When we think about MVP, right, most valuable player, that is the layman terms definition of the entire award. Who is the most valuable or who contributes most in the league? Who is the most top-notch player in the entire NBA? Got to stand out above anybody else. And in my definition of MVP, it has to come alongside winning. Like, you can't just be MVP and have a losing record. No, that doesn't go hand in hand. Like, that's not possible. It doesn't make sense at all. The one guy I think has been the most valuable to his team and has brought a winning record to his team. And I know, Connor, you agree with this 100%. I in fact think he has all claims to winning the award. My bad. Like, he's far ahead of everybody else, and that is Joel Embiid. This man has been averaging like 40 points on the fewest taken shots in NBA history. He is making history.
Chance for a 2-for-1. Embiid euros his way to the bucket.
Connor, what's your insight about Joel Embiid? I know you're a 76ers fan yourself. Give us some insight on JoJo.
Yeah, for the MVP, I would say I break it down into three categories. I would break it into like individual stats and how they play every single game, like not missing a game or not scoring like 10 to 15 points a game. Like, you have to maintain the 30 points at least 20 per game. The second would be in clutch time. I think Joel Embiid, I've watched like every single 76ers game this year. I think that Joel Embiid he's made at least 3 to 4 clutch shots to either win the game or send it to overtime. If he doesn't make those shots, that's 4 to 5 or 3 to 4 losses that the 76ers have. And that puts them in third place, maybe fourth. Not right now, they're in first, but if Joel Embiid didn't make those shots, they wouldn't be where they are right now. And the third one would be what you said. It was winning games, like actually winning games. Like, I'll say in my rankings for top 5, I have some players that aren't at number 1 through 3 because they're not at the top of their conference. Their team has to be maybe the top 3, top 4 seed in their conference to be in the MVP conversation. And then now, Akash, who would you put as your top 5 for the NBA MVP rankings as of right now?
As of right now. Okay. So let's break it down, right? Obviously, I just stated Joel Embiid is my number 1 candidate to win the MVP title. I feel like it's undisputed. But, of course, there are people who are still in the race or who have their name in the race. My second MVP candidate is Nikola Jokic. Man is a beast. We saw him last year. He's a great playmaker. He's averaging 27 points a season, 11 rebounds per game, almost 7 assists per game, and almost 2 steals. So that's pretty good from a big guy. He has a really fluid shot, and he's making a bunch of plays this season again. I'm putting him at second because although he is a dominant center in today's game, I just still think Joel Embiid is far more superior to him right now. Last year, Last year, Nikola Jokic might have been my MVP because he led the Nuggets pretty far. Western Conference Finals. Unfortunately, they lost, but he had a big stake in that or a big role in that. So I think this year is just a tad off, but he's still in that race. My third, unlike the NBA's MVP or Kia MVP ladder, they have LeBron James from the Los Angeles Lakers at number 3, I believe. I am putting Steph Curry on my ladder, and I'm sad that Steph is not on the MVP ladder. Like, that's weird. I don't get it. I don't get why, but I don't think LeBron James is MVP caliber type of player this season. Like, I don't think he's been as valuable to his team. Like, the Lakers after Anthony Davis's injury, we saw how abysmal they are almost, right? They're not that great without AD. Like they need AD. The rest of the guys they need AD. And LeBron James functions at his best with AD or his sidekick. So I'm putting Steph at number 3. At number 4, I'm putting Luka. And I know Luka was like predicted to be number 1 in the MVP race at the very start of the season, like preseason. But Luka has fell substantially because the Mavs went on that losing streak. And mind you, I'm a Mavs fan. I know why they lost because like half the roster was struck due to COVID. KP was out for like the first 8 weeks or something. I don't know, something ridiculous. And then they lost a few more games with everybody because they were adjusting to the schedule. And they had the hardest schedule almost, facing a bunch of the top teams. But Luka has been providing a lot of energy and fuel and engine for the Mavericks. That leads me to my last one, my last candidate, which is Damian Lillard. And I know there's like some controversy over why Luka started over Dame in the All-Star game this year. And I know it sounds kind of skeptical and stuff, but believe it or not, Luka is doing better right now. Very close to Damian Lillard, okay? They're both great, phenomenal players. Dame is averaging 29.8 points, or almost 30, 4 rebounds per game, and 8 assists, and 1 steal. On the other hand, Luka is averaging nearly 29 points, so around 30 as well. 8.4 rebounds, which is substantially higher than Dame. Of course, he's taller, he's a bigger guy. And 9 assists. Luka is a playmaker at his finest. He's also an offensive superstar, but his best ability is playmaking. And I think Luka is doing a lot more for his team right now than Damian Lillard. They're both great, but Luka is doing better. Connor, what's your top 5?
Yeah, I do also have Joel Embiid at first. Like I stated earlier, I think that he's clutch. He means the most to his team. We're in first place, the 76ers. I'm a 76ers fan. You guys know that. But I also think that, like, without Ben Simmons, he's fine. But without Joel Embiid, the 76ers are 1-6. They've won one game, which was against the Pacers, which was in a late fourth quarter comeback where it was all coaching. Doc Rivers had a great game and they put it rest. But that's not the point. He's just means so much to the team that there's no way he can't be number 1 MVP. And then number 2, I think I had the same as you. I had Nikola Jokic. I think he's playing great. If his team was in first or second, he might be my MVP. But just because, like I said earlier, you have to be winning and be one of the top teams in your conference.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I know that he's in the West. The West is probably a lot harder than the East, but still, you can't. He's like the Nuggets are hovering around 500, and you can't be that average of a team to be the MVP. And then third, I have Giannis. He's kind of weirdly underrated. Like he's won back-to-back MVPs, yet he's in none of the MVP discussion. He has similar stats to last year. I think he's averaging about 26 points per game, which is a little bit less, but similar. He still has his averages and rebounds per game up from last year. From the Bucks, they're still third. They're only 2 games behind the 76ers. And he still doesn't have a second superstar, which I think he needs to win the playoffs. But still, I think that's remarkable from an MVP perspective. And then fourth, I have Steph Curry. Like you said, you had him at 3. I have him at 4. I think that, again, like Nikola Jokic, they're not in the playoff picture. I think they're 9th behind the Mavs right now. And that's why I would say that he's not in the top 3. But he's averaging like almost 30 points per game. And without him, the Warriors would just lose more than 50% of the games. They wouldn't even be close. It would be a lottery team is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think that Steph deserves to be in the conversation. And then 5th, you didn't have him on your list, but I'm going to say LeBron just because the Lakers are 2nd. I know that without AD, they lost like 5 games in a row. It was ugly. It wasn't good. That's why he dropped a lot. Like a lot of MVP rankings from like bigger platforms have him top 3. And before the season, I thought he would be top 2 behind, like you said, Luka or maybe someone else like a sleeper Joel Embiid. But I do think that he's dropped like a lot since the start of the season. He can go back up, but as of right now, I have him at 5.
Yeah, good points. So kind of leading my next question, we got our top 5. Of course, there's more people who are in like runner-ups or something like that. I want to talk about sleeper candidates, right? In your opinion, just like without like an elaborate explanation, just minimal, like 1, 2, 3, who are the next in line for MVP, even though they're not top 5? Who would you say, just like off the bat, top 3 names who would be in the MVP runner-up list almost?
Well, I would have similar to what you had. I was thinking about putting Dame in my top 5 because he's made a lot of clutch shots this year, and he's leading the Blazers back to the playoffs. Like they were the 9th seed, but they won the play-in game last year. This year they're firmly in the playoffs, and without CJ McCollum, I think that deserves some recognition. CJ McCollum is having a great season. He's been out, but Dame Lillard, it's still won games without him, so that he probably could be in the MVP conversation. And then, like you said, Luka, if the Mavs improve their standing a little bit to maybe fourth or fifth, or get higher in the Western Conference, I think that he could make a quick rise to the top of the leaderboard. And I had KD at he was in my rankings earlier, but just because of the injury, he's been dropping. But I think if he didn't get injured, he would definitely be in my top five.
Yeah, for sure. I would actually have KD in my top five because he's injured right now for such a long time. Well, quote unquote injured almost for a long time. It was because of COVID. But for my like next three, I'm just gonna list them real quick. My next three would be James Harden, right? I think he's doing phenomenal on the Nets right now, and people say, "Oh, he's just doing well right now. He didn't do well in Houston." Like he did well in Houston. He led them to a really good record. He's still doing good on the Nets. He's just not averaging 50 or something like that. Next up would be Kevin Durant for me. I think he's doing as good as like OKC or even Golden State. KD's averaging like 29 points, I believe, per game, and he's doing pretty good. And then my last like sleeper candidate would be Giannis. Again, Giannis has always been great for the past few years, and I think he's another person that should be in the midst or rumors of MVP candidates.
Anyways, that concludes our NBA segment on our MVP rankings. Next up, we're going to be talking about MLB sleeper teams and who we think have the best chance to win the World Series.
All right, so like Connor said, we're going to be talking about our MLB early predictions. I know spring training has just started. Obviously, the Dodgers won it last year. Pretty hard-fought victory, especially in these circumstances, along with their counterparts, the Los Angeles Lakers. But that's NBA stuff. Right now, we're getting on to MLB content. I think what we're going to be doing today is just listing our top teams that we believe have a strong chance at performing well this season. What that means is just vaguely predicting, I don't know, playoff contenders or World Series contenders, whatever it be, just very, very broad in our predicting terms. Connor, if I'm just going to ask you like on the spot, spontaneous question, who do you think has the best chance in all of the MLB?
Well, the two teams that I've seen based off of this offseason and what they did last year, I would say the Dodgers, obviously.
Dodgers have won it all in 2020.
They won it last year. They got Trevor Bauer this year, which is a huge addition to their pitching staff. They lost Kike Hernandez. I don't think that's that much of a decrease, but I think them and then the Padres, they got Yu Darvish, they got Blake Snell. I think they got a shortstop from Korea or Japan. I'm not. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they signed someone who could be a future decent player in their batting lineup. Other than that, I could see the Yankees. I think they still need some more starting pitching. Their bullpen and their lineup are good, but other than the Dodgers and Padres, I don't really see anyone else winning the World Series.
Yeah, surprisingly, I kind of have the same thing. I know maybe it sounds a little boring for you guys, the audience, because we both have the same predictions. But Connor and I have been talking about this for a while now, and Connor, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've been talking about like the Padres have been doing pretty good, or the Dodgers. Again, I think the Dodgers. I think the Padres are going to do better this season. I just think the Padres are going to gain some momentum and persevere to that World Series victory. Hopefully, they don't get their emotions tangled up and just continue to beat at it. But those are top two almost. And then you said the Yankees. I'm just going to actually list out a few teams that I think are going to do pretty well because I really don't want to give you like a top 5 teams ranking right now because I feel it's very unfair to do that, especially as let's take it down for a minute, right? Let's break it down. We're fans, right? We are not MLB players. We're not MLB GMs. We're not MLB owners. We are not affiliated with the MLB whatsoever. We have no idea, no clue what it's like to be in the MLB. We know what it's like to watch or experience MLB content. That is as far as we know. So that being said, I think it's kind of unfair for us to give you a full straight on list who's number 5 or who's number 1. Or I know we just said number 1 too, but I feel like that's a bit unfair. I'm just going to list a few teams. So obviously Dodgers and Padres. I'm going to throw in the Angels there. I know they didn't spark up a lot last year, but I feel like Anthony Rendon, Joe Adele, and Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, I feel like they're a really good offensive lineup plus pitching from Ohtani. I know Ohtani gets injured frequently, but I feel like the Angels are someone to consider making a big push this season. Another team I'd probably throw in would be the Toronto Blue Jays with the addition of George Springer, I feel like the young talent with Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and George Springer are a really good offensive lineup. A lot of power hitting from Guerrero Jr., a lot of versatility from Bo Bichette, and also a great starting pitcher in from Ryu. I feel like they're a up and rising team, so just watch out for those guys. Probably another team I'm gonna put in the White Sox, Chicago White Sox, with Lucas Giolito and Luis Roberts and Tim Anderson. I feel like they're gonna do pretty good. Yeah, I feel like especially with Luis Roberts, he's obviously one of the highest prospects last year. I feel like he's gonna do pretty well and take off, especially with the few veterans around him. So just watch out for those guys. Maybe a few other teams. I don't know. I'm gonna kind of fast the. I probably throw in the Brewers. Maybe I'm gonna put in the Rays in there. Maybe also the Twins because they made a small push last year. But those are probably my top teams as of right now. Again, this could all be wrong or this could all change depending on how the season goes. We're only in spring training, so yeah, there you go. But I know I've been rambling for some time now. Connor, what's your like rapid fire top teams just to like consider for the season?
Yeah, like you said, other than the Padres and the Dodgers, I really liked your pick on the White Sox. They could definitely go really deep into the playoffs. They're just a well-rounded team. They have a decent bullpen. They signed Liam Hendricks this offseason. They have a few good starting pitchers, and their lineup is really deep. Based off of last year, they had one of the best offenses. They have a tough division. I know that the Twins are good. The Indians were good last year. I don't think they'll be that good this year, but it's a pretty tough division. And from the NL East, I would take the Braves. They blew a 3-1 lead in the NLCS to the Dodgers, and I think that they could get over the hump this year to make it to the World Series. Maybe not win the World Series, but they could make it there. And there's a lot of hype around the Mets. I'm not going to buy into that just yet. I understand that Francisco Lindor is the best shortstop in the MLB. I don't think there's anyone better than him. Maybe Javi Baez, but I don't think he's better than Francisco Lindor. I just don't think that their bullpen and the end of the rotation is good enough to win a World Series or to beat the Padres or the Dodgers. The Padres and the Dodgers are just too overpowering in every aspect. I think the Mets, they could get a wild card for sure because I think the Braves are going to win the division. But if I see a wild card with the Padres or the Dodgers playing against the Mets, that'll be a very interesting wild card game to watch. So I know that you're a Nationals fan. What is your outlook on the season for the Nats?
My outlook. Okay, so from the top, I don't think the Nationals are a World Series contender. I think it's kind of a stretch this year. Well, you never know. Okay, they came back in 2019. I was not expecting it, except at that one point in May, I believe. I was like, these guys are going to do pretty good. I feel like the Nationals are going to turn around. May of 2019, I was like, I feel the Nationals are on to something. But I don't think the Nationals are World Series contenders. They have a chance at winning their division, I believe. I think maybe it's a stretch right now, and maybe it's because I'm a biased Nationals fan. But I think the Nationals have the capability of winning their division, making it into the wild card game possibly, something like that. Or that maybe that's an alternative. With the addition of Josh Bell, a pretty notable first baseman and a power hitter or slugger almost for the Nationals, I think that was a great addition in a trade between the Pirates that Mike Rizzo made and the Nationals as a whole. I think that was good. Getting Kyle Schwarber was good from the Cubs. I believe he was signed. I may be mistaken my bet on that if I did, but I saw both of these guys, Josh Bell and Kyle Schwarber, do well in spring training in a few of their games, and I like their offensive production and what I saw from them. So, and I feel like they're fitting pretty well onto the team. Thankfully, Stephen Strasburg is back. Max Scherzer is always going to be a beast. Although both of them aging is a bit of a concern. I don't know who we're going to turn on to next, but on the other hand, on or like hitting lineup and stuff like that, we have Juan Soto and Victor Robles. Juan Soto, I know he struggled a bit during spring training. I wouldn't let that discourage Nationals fans just yet. He is a beast. He will get back on there. He's super clutch, so don't worry. On your end, Connor, I know you're a Phillies fan. What's your take on the Phillies offseason? What do you think? I don't know if you've watched any spring training games. What do you think is their outlook for the season?
Yeah, I've looked at most of the moves that they made this offseason, and still, I have to say, this is one of the most unpredictable Phillies teams I've ever seen. Like for this season, like I have no idea what's going to happen. The ceiling would be either winning the division, possibly making the NLCS, but the floor could be 5th place in the division. They have three good starting pitchers: Aaron Nola, Zach Miller, and Zach Eflin's pretty good, and their lineup is one of the best in the MLB. I think we were 5th in runs last year, and we didn't make the playoffs in an expanded playoffs because the bullpen has a 7 ERA last year, the 3rd worst bullpen in the MLB history. The GM made a lot of moves to the bullpen. It's completely different. If that bullpen is good, the Phillies could be a contender. Maybe not for the championship, but definitely to win the division and maybe to advance in the playoffs. But I have no idea what's going to happen with the season for the Phillies. Like you said, the Nationals, we know what they're going to be. They're going to be probably 2nd or 3rd place in the division, maybe stretching it to win the division. The Phillies could go first or to last. Like they have so many variables on their team that can either break out. Like Bryce Harper is incredibly inconsistent. He could be an MVP, or he could go on a slump for multiple months. It just depends on the situation for the Phillies.
I kind of get your struggle as a Phillies fan. I've been there. It's okay. We have therapy over here with the Nationals. If you ever need it, we've been there. Trust me. I mean, guys, that kind of wraps up our MLB segment and also this episode. Look out for further episodes. Oh, and by the way, Connor, hit him up with our Instagram page.
Yeah, we have an Instagram page at _Courtside_. We have a ton of polls. We share everything NBA, MLB, March Madness. We're going to share it all on our story. We post about our podcast that we create so that you will stay updated and get all of the notifications that you need to listen to our podcast in the future.
Yep. So we're probably going to have a few guests in the coming moments or in the coming weeks. Might be scheduling some important people on our show. But keep an update for that. Turn your notifications on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts now, Anchor, whatnot. So just keep an eye out for that right now. Without further ado, peace.